Amazing. All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for coming tonight to our Innovate and Advance series, where we introduce trailblazing women like Peggy. I'm super excited to host this session with Uvika today. We have our amazing speaker. I can't even wait for her to unpack the extremely important topic today around data discipline. Our session today is going to be a little different. It's going to be a fireside chat, which is different from our usual sessions, which are typically webinars, presentations. So here's how the evening will flow. Uvika will introduce our amazing speaker, and then we'll dive into a 25-minute fireside chat with Peggy, and then we'll open up for Q&A. So in the meantime, if you could please be on mute while the session is in progress, and please drop your questions in chat and comments in chat. And with that, I'll hand it over to you, Vika. And with that, I'm so sorry I have to drop off today. I will catch the recording. I apologize. So have a great session, and I'll go off camera and drop off. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.
Uvika, you're on mute.
Thank you. All right. So with that, I'm super excited to have an amazing speaker, Peggy TsAI. And she is truly a leader in the field of data, AI, and governance. And she is currently a product director at JPMorgan Chase, where she drives product design engineering for the firm-wide data governance platform. She previously served as a chief data officer at Big ID, leading strategy in data and AI governance, privacy, security, really, really important topics. Peggy brings over 18 years of leadership experience in data management, stewardship, and governance. She holds a master's in information systems from NYU and a Bachelor of Arts in economics from Cornell University. Go Big Red! In addition to her corporate leadership, Peggy is deeply committed to education. She is an adjunct faculty member at Carnegie Mellon University, amazing, at the Heinz College, Chief Data and AI Officer Certification Program, and she recently joined University of Denver's AI Governance Executive Program as an instructor as well. So as Padmini said, that she's going to be talking on a really, really important topic, which doesn't get a lot of limelight, but I'm glad to hear that people are now starting to pay attention. The topic of today's chat is the missing ingredient in most AI projects, which is data discipline. So with that, please join me in giving a warm welcome to Peggy. Right. So
Thank you.
You're welcome, Peggy.
Yeah,
super
such
excited.
a nice, such a warm welcome, and appreciate the kind words. And you succinctly summarized my resume and bio. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. There is so much more. I mean, the wealth of knowledge that you're going to be sharing with us, we're extremely, extremely grateful. So thank you so much. So Peggy, you have a really rich background, and you've worked at a number of like financial institutions and led strategy, as a chief data officer. And now you're shaping data governance at JPM Chase, which in itself is a huge deal, and also teaching future leaders. Looking back at all these pivots that you've made, what was the most pivotal decision or turning point in your career that enabled you to have such an influence in both industry as well as academia?
Wow. Great question, Uvika. And honestly, I would say that I don't know if there was any pivotal moments, but certainly I knew what I wanted to do in my career early on. And I was very lucky to land in a role. Back then, it was my first major company that I worked with was at S&P Global Ratings. And I happened to be in a data center of excellence role. So data was pivotal to the business, to operations, to technology. And I would say that because of that one experience, it really shaped me into knowing that I wanted to do everything data, like all things data. Like that was when I really learned about data management, about data governance, stewardship, what data quality was, and the importance of it, not from a technology point of view, but also from a business point of view as well. So really bridging technology and business was always my core tenet, I would say. And I would think that every opportunity or role that I sought after that was not just about the ever-changing technologies, especially with generative AI and AI agents. It's always been, there's always new technology to learn, but how to make it fundamental, sound, adaptive to all areas of business outside of technology, I learned was about to data and communicating the value of data to the business. And that's why I explored all areas of working in financial services. I wanted to work for a startup company that dived really deep into data. And now I'm in the next chapter of my career where I'm doing product management. And I've never really done that before in an official capacity. So that's why it's really exciting for me, not just to be a consumer and user and a seller. And then now I'm actually creating the products on a firm-wide enterprise level. So it's all different aspects, I would say, of data and data governance. And because I knew that I wanted to be centrally focused on data. So that's kind of, I would say, how I decided to shape my career so far.
I love it. And the number of times you said data, I wanted to raise my hands so many times. Yes, yes. That's great. So Peggy, when we were deciding this topic, and by the way, folks, we had scheduled time with Peggy several months in advance. So just so you know, we got Peggy on the calendar sometime in May, and here we are in August. So we had talked to her that, what is it going to be about that you're going to be talking about? So we had talked to Peggy about this whole aspect about, data discipline, and we've chatted, and we've heard from Peggy, and she says that data discipline is a missing ingredient in most AI projects. Can you help us by starting to unpack and help us understand what data discipline really means in practice?
Yeah, and I'm intentionally using the word data discipline in lieu of data governance, which is a more common terminology. It's a common department in many organizations. But for someone who has been a data governance practitioner for decades now, I'd say at least 2 decades in the financial services industry, I would say that data governance often fails. It's often an uphill battle to be able to convince the executives that you need the funding, you need to hire more people, you need to buy the latest technology tools. It's an uphill battle to convince them. And the reason why is because they think data and data management is something that is only siloed to one group, the data group or technology. They're the ones responsible for data. But I think if you turn the words around about the semantics of the word data governance, you just use the word data discipline, it starts to broaden the responsibilities of data governance to everyone in the organization. And it makes it more inclusive, I would say. It's not just the responsibility of a data team or data steward or only the data analyst to be responsible for the quality and the accuracy of the data. But now that many organizations, I would say all organizations, are involved in some aspect of analytics, reporting, data engineering, now with AI engineering, it's a discipline in terms of the mindset of the best practices of that everyone in the organization, whether a user or a consumer of data, any type of data, right? Whether it's just numbers is a spreadsheet, is data. Emails that you're sending out can potentially contain personal or sensitive information, is data that you need to know how to protect. That this type of discipline should be taught and enforced as common as cybersecurity practices. You know, like every time you are onboarded to a new organization, and I recently experienced this because I joined JP Morgan only 4 months ago, I had to go through a whole onboarding of all these videos I had to learn. And what did I learn? It was all about cybersecurity and making sure my laptop doesn't get hacked, or knowing how to protect my login credentials. Like, why don't we teach data discipline as commonly as we teach onboarding new employees how to secure their security and credentials? You know, so that's why I think it should be as common, as widespread as just onboarding every single employee.
Wow. There's a lot. There's a lot that you said. And I absolutely loved that this needs to be like bare minimum, right? Like people need to know, right? Like it's non-negotiable, it seems, right? So it's like, yeah, everybody needs to know about this. Awesome.
Yeah, but the thing with something like data and data management is, it's for someone who's been doing it, I feel like it's common sense. But when I talk to executives, it's not, they understand it too. I mean, I think in principle, everyone understands the best practices of doing master data management, understand the quality, ensuring garbage in, garbage out, especially when it comes to any type of data modeling. It's important, but the actual work that gets into ensuring that, and the actual discipline all teams need to be doing this day in, day out, it is hard work. It's not easy. There's no magic wand to suddenly do data lineage and to document hundreds and thousands of data processes. It's not easy. That's why it is work, and it is a discipline to make sure that companies are building this strong data foundation that can lead them to more proactive and productive usage later on downstream, whether it's analytics or now AI.
Amazing. So I'm actually gonna move to the next question. So AI is no longer a buzzword. Everybody's talking about it, and sometimes the hype is just beyond what you can even digest, right? So the industry is full of big AI promises. We all know that. And many projects also stall after pilots. So we are learning that. Why do you think so many organizations struggle to move from proof of concept to production?
And I think this is a very timely question, Uvika, because I think it was only this week where Gartner said that generative AI is now in the hype cycle, is like in the trough of disillusionment. And that's what they predicted 8 to 12 months ago with the hype. And this is really where I would say 2024, where there were so many proof of concept projects. Like everyone was on the bandwagon of, why aren't you doing some type of AI, generative AI, like chatbots? Why aren't you doing ChatGPT? Like everyone was building a large language model, some type of large language model. So I think that what I'm seeing is it's very easy to do proof of concepts because it's a small contained data set. It's a small team of people. It's almost like being on vacation, right? You're enjoying yourself, you're in a resort, everything is all happy-go-lucky when you're in the confines of this safe area. But when you release or try to expand and encourage adoption of the AI projects, or just build it up to scale, I think scalability is where I'm seeing a lot of organizations having a tough time, because one, it involves more people that are not necessarily trained in technology or skilled in data, and you're expecting them to have that same level of knowledge that your core AI team had, right? So it's actually putting, when you're putting it in the wild, I would say that's when you are introducing different factors that you did not consider, and it's usability, its scalability, it's technology itself, but it's also the human element, I would say, in terms of having the getting the exact value out of the proof of concept that you may or may not have expected. So while in the laboratory of the AI where you're doing the proof of concept, you can only predict time savings or cost savings that the AI will have on the employee, the worker. But when you're actually introducing it to the employees, there's tons of other priorities that teams have today. And you're introducing another type of technology for them to learn, to use. And to be honest, in my personal life, I actually don't have as much time as I would like to use all these new AI tools. And human nature is to default to what they know. And it takes energy and time commitment, that discipline to use new tools and technologies. And if it's not in your nature to do so, then you're not going to use it. So that is also another cause for failure as well.
Love it. I wish there were a lot of people, who actually heard just what you said, right? That as soon as you put stuff in the actual reality, right? People don't anticipate what's going to happen, right? Because it's easy. Proof of concept, yeah, we'll get it done. But when you put the people who are going to be using it and all those other stakeholders, there is that gap, right? Because people don't understand. The developer might have a different way of thinking, and they don't even have the knowledge. And it speaks to our favorite AI literacy gap. So more to unpack on that. So with that, I'd like to move on to the core theme about this whole data discipline again. So I want you to touch a little bit about, on governance. So we've often heard you talk about governance as being the backbone of AI readiness. So in your opinion and your experience, what does strong governance look like in an AI context?
Yeah, so this is something I've actually been talking about for the last couple of years.
Yes.
And because before AI, there was machine learning, there was predictive analytics, there was other types of AI disciplines that were already in practice. And when it comes to governance, there's certainly data governance, which I love to talk about, information governance. For those of you not as familiar, governance, in my mind, is a process. It's a framework in how there's people, process, and technology when it comes to governance. I like to talk about the people and the process part because there's always new technologies. But when it comes to people, it's really about educating not just the data stewards, but also the users on how to properly ensure that they are using the right master data, that they're not duplicating copies of data, that they ask about the quality of the data. So there's almost like a language that data users ask to ensure that they're using the best fit data for their purpose. And the process, right? There's a process in terms of data cleansing, data remediation, data monitoring, and that's a responsibility of a data team. But then there's also a process that the users must also, the consumers of the data must ensure as well, as when they are using the data, that they're asking the right questions about the origins of the data. So that's always been about data when it comes to using it for business intelligence, for reports or dashboarding, and that's been around for as most companies do that already. But applying that discipline to now AI is also thinking about AI governance, which is from a model perspective. A model is just a data set, and that is a common that's a known common understanding that most organizations have, like a data set for reference data or data set about for the customer data. So those are already currently used data sets, but applying that now to AI, we're talking about training data, we're talking about data that feeds into models and algorithms. And how do you also treat that with the same data governance principles? It's also about monitoring for data quality. It's also ensuring that there's people responsible for the data. There's also a process in place already. So it's actually was an easier lift a few years ago for organizations that had a very mature data governance program to now lift and shift that process over to AI governance. And that's actually what I saw a couple of years ago when organizations were able to say that they had a strong and fairly mature AI governance program. And it was very easy to see based on their existing data governance program. So when organizations say that they have a strong AI governance program, I actually want them to explain to me their data governance program, because if they don't understand data governance and they don't do that well, then I know for sure they have very little clue on AI data governance as well.
I love that. And I know Evan, you're taking really good notes. He is our AI governance guru on this call. So no, thank you so much. A lot of times people forget like how important data governance is as part of the overall AI governance, right? Like, and it's so funny, Evan and I, we were just talking about it today, that a lot of people truly do not understand what AI governance is. There's a lot of confusion. Of course, AI is a buzzword, but you know, there are a lot of other buzzwords circulating around too. So thank you so much for that insight. It's very helpful. Based on your experience and how many places you've been at and what you're seeing, what's happening in the industry, how do you see organizations balancing speed of experimentation with responsibility and compliance in AI development?
Yeah, I love this question because having spent 5 years at a startup, I saw the importance of the need for speed, right? You had to go to market quickly. Even large financial institutions or insurance companies, they have to stay competitive, right? They have to stay on top of their against their competitors. They have to stay on top of the market by saying they use all the latest technologies. And this is where I think good governance plays a role here. And putting the right guardrails in place, right? And I've seen great organizations have a research, a lab area. It's almost like a startup within a large organizations where they can experiment, use the latest technologies and implement them, again, doing proof of values that make sense, right? And again, going back to the other question, proof of values succeed when it actually aligns with the right business values, business strategies, business outcomes. Without the right outcomes, you're just wasting money, right? You're just doing experiments without any true outcomes. But I think organizations that have a smart way of allowing small cross-functional teams to innovate, fail fast, build quickly, iterate on ideas really quickly, and then have also the funding to implement it on a large scale. I think that's where they can balance that speed of experimentation, which you need in a small, hyper-focused, cross-functional team. But then you also want to make sure that part of that team is someone in compliance, in legal, security, privacy. You know, you want those checks and balances to make sure that whatever is built in a lab environment has that potential to scale quickly without any type of regulatory issues or concerns. I've seen companies that do this well, and I think those are the ones that have not just the discipline, but the right framework and the right business alignment as well. And those are, again, the key ingredients I think that's needed. Not just doing AI projects for the heck of it, just because everyone else is doing it, but doing it in the right context, the right business context, and having that right strategy in place. And it starts from the very top. You need a strong AI leader, data leader that works very closely in conjunction with the CIO or CTO. They have to be strong collaborative partners with each other. And unfortunately, I also see a lot of times the C-suite have a lot of friction because everyone wants to own AI. And there's not always a designated chief AI officer. AI is usually a distributed role, which it should be. I think it should be a distributed role, but unfortunately, everyone wants that title or added to their business title. So because AI is so distributed, there's not a clear AI strategy in many organizations, which is another unfortunate thing. Like, who actually owns AI in your organization, right? If you actually go back and think about it, many people will claim that they own AI. When I used to work at Big ID, I had customers who thought the privacy officer should own AI, like the chief privacy. And I was like, really? You think you are tech savvy enough to be able to build AI? But in their minds, the privacy officers believe that they owned AI because of all the AI regulations that were being rolled out, or the EU, all the privacy regulations talked about AI as well. So everyone has a different perspective. It's really important to come to a consensus, regardless of what it is in your organization, and not to have everyone fight for the title, but it should be an agreed upon responsibility.
I love, love, love everything that you said. And I feel there needs to be a book on, like these guides that need to be there. And you're actually saying things that are actually happening. I've spoken to so many people where they talk about, we don't know where AI sits, right? And yes, everybody wants to own it. There's a lot of friction, a lot of issues happening. And what I really love what you said was that it really needs to align with the business value. And you talked about scaling. So we're going to jump into that area, and talking to a lot of leaders, many executives want to know, and it's a top of mind question. We know that stuff is failing. How does one identify high value AI use cases that can scale instead of just chasing shiny object pilots?
I love this question, especially your use of the word shiny objects, because believe me, as a previous vendor, we were selling shiny objects. And I can tell you the number of C-suite executives I talked to that would simply, it's almost like they had ADHD. They would just want to only purchase the latest and greatest technologies, and they could never finish executing or building out, things they purchased, 2 or 3 years ago, like building out their data and architecture foundation. So I would say that, again, what is high value? That is something that needs to be defined within your industry, within your company. And I've seen and this is something I actually teach at Carnegie Mellon for new chief data and AI officers, is to really understand, and it's like a matrix of when it comes to value, cost, or value and impact. You know, you have that X and Y axis. And what many chief data officers and AI officers do, what we can recommend, like in your first 90 days in the job, you're talking to different stakeholders, everyone is coming at you and saying, this is a really important project, this is high priority, but really being able to, when you map and compare the actual value and the size of the impact versus the effort to take on these projects, that's what we recommend many new executives to think about in terms of what exactly is high impact to the business. It's not high impact to the technology team, because technology teams will always say everything is high impact. But at the end of the day, it's not technology teams that is generating revenue. No offense to anyone in technology. And I've been in technology, right? So I know it's a back office, you know, even when it comes to data, we don't necessarily generate revenue, right? Unless you're selling products. So when you're thinking about who is most important stakeholder in your organization, it's the revenue generating departments. What is most important to them in terms of what is the most repetitive process? What is the most longest duration business process that they have to do? What is the highest in risk, the most riskiest impact? So thinking about it from those areas and from their lens, that would have the most impact, right? Something as simple as saving, you know, a business operation person time it takes to review or to understand faulty data. Those are things, those are their pain points, right? So really understanding their pain points, their most highly value added things, that is where first and foremost AI should be solving problems for, right? It shouldn't be building something robotic that is not actually solving or helping them in any way. So at the end of the day, any type of AI ROI, return on investment, should be clearly aligned with business objectives, business KPIs. Because if you're not doing that, then your business stakeholders are not going to be along for the journey for AI, and they're not going to see the value in time and investments that the AI teams and technology teams are putting effort in.
So many golden nuggets. I feel we need a separate session on how do you figure out like the high impact, high value projects, which are truly going to translate into ROI. Yes, measuring ROI for AI projects is hard, but I loved the whole aspect of the matrix that you talked about. We hope if you can share that with our learners, if you can, maybe even like a preview or something, I'm sure people would really, really appreciate it. So thank you so much for sharing that. The other question I had is just, looking at your rich experience, and you've seen so much in the startup space and, in big corporations. In your mind, what are the signs that says that an organization is truly AI ready from a data perspective?
Again, another timely question, because if you asked me a couple of weeks ago, I wouldn't really be able to answer it. And I can answer it because I'm about to teach this. This is one of the University of Denver's classes that I'm teaching on strategic application of AI. And literally the first 2 weeks of the curriculum, which is what I'm learning and preparing for, is about AI maturity. How do you assess the maturity of a company? And there's plenty of data maturity models out there. Gartner, CMMC, DAMA, and EDM Council, they all have these data maturity, but not as much as AI maturity. And if you actually Google AI maturity models, you might read something about that has like maybe 5 stages of readiness, but it all underpins on data, right? It's really still on the culture, data availability, data readiness, data accuracy, data quality of it. So I would say from a data perspective, but also from an AI readiness perspective, there are AI maturity models, or not true assessments, but certainly if you look out there, there are markers that indicate and describe how ready an organization is. And I would say culture certainly is a big piece of it, not just the team itself, but the readiness of the organization to train and to what I alluded to earlier is people defaulting to their natural learnings, but giving them the time and space and incentivizing them to learn and use AI, I think is a key part in learning. So that's all for me, part of the overall culture and AI readiness. It doesn't matter if an organization has the latest and greatest technologies, but again, if you're not giving them that right space, mind and space to actually use it, then you're not building an AI ready organization as a whole. And that's with the people. And the second thing I would say is willingness for giving employees space to try, learn, fail. And I say fail a lot. I said it previously as well, because I think that with any type of experimentation or with usage, nothing's going to be correct or all the time, but teaching people that, challenging people that the results of the algorithms, results that you're seeing from the AI models and the chatbots are not always going to be correct, because we know that it can easily be influenced. There's hallucinations. So it's almost like challenge employees to find mistakes and teach them that mindset of not expecting things to be accurate. And that goes into the third piece of that AI myth, the fear of AI taking over all our jobs and we're going to be replaced. I mean, yes or no, depending on your occupation and your role, but certainly having that, if you teach the employees to have that mindset of challenging preconceived notions that come out of the AI algorithms, that's only going to make everyone in the organization smarter and better. And that's what you want, right? If I was the CEO, that's what I would want. So it's really important to build that mindset. And I would say those are the softer elements of being AI ready. It's hard to measure. It's almost like, how do you measure AI literacy, right? Not by the number of training courses people take, but it's that mindset, that readiness. So it's really hard to measure, but I'm sure that as more organizations become more mature, there will be easier markers and indicators to see when that shift really starts to happen. Again, going back to cybersecurity, how do you know when everyone is cybersecurity ready, right? It's like when you know that when people don't start clicking on those spam emails and the links, it's a culture that we have to be bringing to AI as well.
You were talking about so many things, and I'm like, oh my gosh, she's reading my
Sorry.
mind. No, because you talked about AI culture, and it's such an important topic. I had made a post about it a few weeks ago, and this was again driven by conversations that I've had with leaders, and I keep hearing that, oh, there is the fear of adoption, but you have to let the bird fly a little bit. You have to give the liberty to your employees to experiment and allow them to fail, right? And talk about problems and not penalize them for raising issues, right? So like you build that openness. And I also loved about what you just said about questioning what these algorithms are telling you. And I had made another post about this, on top.
I haven't read your post, so we're just thinking
no, that's what I was saying. Like, oh my God, like, you're like my kindred spirit.
But these are so important. I'm so glad you're talking about it as well, Uvika, and you're seeing it. I'm seeing it. I'm hoping
Yes.
that everyone in this audience starts to see it as well if you haven't
Yes.
already, because once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Yes, exactly. And I'm so glad that, you were talking about these things, and these are extremely important topics. So thank you so much. So I know we are coming close to time, so I just have 2 more questions for you. Agentic AI is a super hot topic. You can even sell a pen to anybody and say, this is agentic. So how do you see data discipline shaping whether AI agents succeed or even introduce new risks?
Yeah, I mean, another great question. So those are actually 2 different things, agentic AI and AI agents. AI agents is very specific to a machine being able to really be able to replicate a lot of the human behavior. And I see that actually in a very near foreseeable future, AI agents being able to take over many of the things that were really time intensive when it comes to data management, reconciling data, being able to take actions to remediate data, being able to opening a ticket to review data. So and when it comes to agentic AI, the larger discipline of machines doing a lot of these steps and being able to think more like humans, I mean, I think that there's still a lot of training needs to be done. Business, in particular, when it comes to understanding the business context of the data, and I think this is where human in the loop, is a very common phrase, but it's still very much needed in order to train the AI agents. But I think that when it comes to anything that is more simplistic or repetitive, I think that having this a good data governance process and structure allows agents to really take on more and more of the repetitive work that I see, and it allows us, allows the data stewards to really focus on the more the complex nuances and be able to do, I would say, a lot more funner analytics and predictive projects. So I think that there's certainly a lot of benefits that I'm looking forward to that probably hasn't even, still in development, right, in terms of what can be done with data.
Wow, predictive analytics and fun projects sounds definitely very exciting.
I'd rather do that than be cleaning mail, multitudes of rows of an Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah. So with that, I'm just going to wrap up with a final question. There's a lot happening. We even see quantum coming and exciting stuff. What excites you most about the intersection of data governance and AI in the years ahead?
So, I think we've seen a lot of this already in our personal lives, and whether it's like healthcare, what we've seen with computer vision. I'm just most excited about making data and governance and AI, that combination. I want to make it real for people. I want, data for good. That's a hashtag, AI for good. I want to really see where the power of this new technology combined with data, smarter insights, really help to solve problems that are outside of, honestly, that's things that are so theoretical, right? Really being able to help humanity and to really solve the big challenges of whether it be world hunger, poverty, homelessness. I think there's just so many real world issues that can be solved now with the right utilization of AI to really help problem solve. And we have a lot of data. It's just putting again, instead of a business problem that is involving a multinational corporation, but how do we now pinpoint, now the business is people, it's the economy, it's it's children, right? It's actually problems that haven't had the same focus. So that's where I'm most excited about with the, I think the more stable that we can have the AI technologies. I would love to be able to pivot, maybe in my next career pivot would be something that, you know, taking all this discipline that we learned in the business world, how do we now apply that to our personal and really make an impact on people's lives as well?
Oh my God, impact is the golden world. And I loved what you talked about data for good. Whenever you're ready for your next second act, whatever it is, you know, Peggy, please let me know.
I'm there for
To
it.
partner.
Exactly. And people are doing it today, I would say already, but you know, something I think we should all consider, you know, in your you know, more mature chapter in your career. I think it's the skills we are learning and doing with data and technology and AI. What I'm saying is that it's easily transferable to the nonprofit organizations. They really need our skill set as well. So you know, something people can do today already, but I'm probably looking forward to it after this chapter of my career.
Fabulous. I love it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Peggy. So with that, we are going to open the floor to questions. We already did get 2 questions in the chat. So the first question was from Sandrine, and the next question is from Evan. And then I see Zeba, you raised your hand. So Sandrine, do you want to go off mute and directly ask your question to Peggy?
Yes, ma'am. Okay. Thank you, Peggy, for the presentation. It was very insightful, everything you shared. So, good evening, everyone. My question is regarding data discipline. So, how do we measure the ROI of good data discipline? So, fewer errors, less rework, or better adoption?
How to measure the ROI of data discipline?
Yes.
Good question. And I think that's a very specific question, I would say, depending on your organization, the business values and goals. I think that is one important factor to take consideration. Generally, I would say organizations, when it comes to data discipline, data governance, they are looking for time savings, efficiencies, headcount reduction, unfortunately, is a very common. Speed to market is a positive one rather than a cost reduction ROI. So I just gave you a few, but really thinking about which ones are most important in your organization, and then trying to find multiple ways and areas of where like time savings would have a cumulative effect. So you could say, depending on the business process or risk process, where time savings would have an effect, and you would be able to calculate before and after to give examples. So by picking a few, something like time savings or efficiency or cost savings, but apply that across multiple business processes, multiple technology processes, you would able to find what the cumulative effect is. So hopefully that helped you, Sanjay.
Yes, thank you, Peggy.
That was great. Thank you so much. I think the next question is from Evan in the chat, and then Zeba will come to you, and then Jill will come to you.
Okay. Yeah, Peggy, thank you. Thank you very much for this. I just have, I really have 2 questions. I'm just going to ask one. I used to do information lifecycle management, right? And, you know, one thing we learned is people would ask us for a data map for data classification, so that we could all know what data belongs to what, you know, to what category. People aren't doing that anymore. Is it a good idea to go back to that and start asking for data
Yes,
maps before we start even thinking about,
absolutely. I would say that it's you call it a data map, I call it a data dictionary, business glossary, along with data lineage. That's absolutely the fundamental artifact of data governance 101 is to have a data dictionary where your data assets are defined, understood, KPIs are also, any calculations or metrics is clearly defined. You know exactly what source each the master source is for each data asset. You can build a clear lineage or mapping end to end of all your key data assets. Data is tied to business concepts, which is not necessarily the same as logical concepts, which is not the same as technical assets, right? So it's a very complex spider web of information in order to see the whole visualization, or what you would say a data map. And that's what I would say, again, going back to data governance 101, is causes the confusion depending on who you are in an organization, how you see things. It's different. It's almost like everyone has a different perspective, which they do, right? Someone in finance is going to see numbers differently than someone in sales and marketing,
Right.
and they're going to be able to, they report and calculate things differently. Same goes for AI. AIs will and continue to be a black box, right? That's why we have model risk management, right? To break down that black box, to provide that transparency. And I think that's one of the, I would say, the challenges of generative AI is you don't know the true lineage of how something was actually generated. Like, you don't know all your true sources. It could be a derivative of many things, but what are those actual sources? So when it comes to AI projects, AI models, AI algorithms, a lot of the, I would say, confusion or mistrust, again, I can talk a whole thing about AI and trust, is because you don't know that full lineage. You don't have that full provenance and understanding of that lineage and that full data map. So absolutely, whether you're an attorney, legal is a growing field that is heavy users of AI, or the traditionally regulated industries, or any consumer, any organization is a data and AI organization these days. So absolutely, yes.
Yep, thank you.
We need a separate session on a lot of the things that you said. It's like just pure gold. So thank you so much for that question, Evan. And thank you so much, Peggy, for that amazing answer. We have Zeba next.
Yes. Hello. Hi, Peggy. Thank you so much for the session. I loved what you're talking about, except like the data discipline and all these things. I talk about it a lot at work.
Good.
So a little bit about me. I'm an AI engineer at Capco right now. Um, and I work with AI systems a lot. Like I'm just like building things, but at the same time, I'm testing those things. So one of the things that I want to hear your opinion on is evaluating AI, because I feel one of the parts of being able to use AI responsibly is to have a very robust evaluation criteria and like evaluation methodologies. And I feel that there are a lot of companies around those things, like there are Ragas, there's Galileo and all those companies. But I want to hear like what have you seen that works when it comes to evaluating an AI model and effectively evaluating that, and not just like random evaluations.
Good question. Good question, Ziba. And thank you for what you're doing, which is advocating for data within your organization. Often it's a very lonely job, I would say. So personally, I don't have a lot of experience with a lot of the evaluation aspect of it. But what I would say is it still goes back to data, the fundamentals of data. And I think the accuracy of the data that's being used to train the model, and how do you actually validate the outputs of it? Is it reasonable? Is it something that's still accurate? And this is where I see many organizations still involving humans in the evaluation, in that testing, without, you know, still having that, I would say, more supervised aspect of the evaluation. So for me personally, I don't think that that can be done without the human aspect, just because the complexity of the business context, the models cannot be, a lot of reasons why I don't, or I have some distrust of some of these open source models, is because it hasn't been built or customized or bespoke to the organization's industry and specific data. So that's why it's important for organizations to use standard evaluation criteria, but it also, I believe, should be customized for that organization as well. So that's why it's important for users to also be participating, not just AI engineers, to be participating in this human in the loop.
That is so true. Yeah, I completely agree. Thank you so much.
No problem.
That's a great one. And I see Jill, you're up next, and Niba, I know you also posted a question, so you'll be after Jill. Go ahead, Jill.
Thanks, Uvika. And hello, Peggy. Thank you so much for joining us. I feel like I've learned a lot in a short amount of time. I am a user researcher and also a product person, so much of what you just said really resonated. I have also found myself in the position between our data governance folks and AI governance folks and our delivery teams, and I've helped really build some relationships there. So the question that I have for you is fairly tactical, because you were talking about governance as a people process activity. Totally agree with that. But I have observed like delivery teams getting very bristly with our friends on the data side, because it's overhead, like data enablement plans that they have to complete and all of the process that comes with it. So I wondered if you have seen examples of where those two groups have kind of come together and made it easy for each other. I know you mentioned the labs, but maybe if you had some examples of like how they've bridged that disconnect, if you've seen similar.
No, great question. And that's exactly my current role, as well as a product manager. I deal a lot with technical delivery managers who don't understand, again, data. But what I would say is a new product that we actually launched is around data compliance. And by taking the responsibility of governance and discipline outside of the role of a data governance, I'm not blaming it on compliance, but everyone listens to compliance. So having a process where all projects have to go through a data checklist, essentially. We call it a compliance checklist, but it's essentially the data governance checklist. And it asks all questions about data privacy, data security, data usage, data access, and it applies to all projects, regardless of size, regardless of internal, external. So I would say that if you really had the guts, and I encourage all organizations to do it, is to build something that is agnostic of data. It's more like a project management / product release guide. It's like an artifact. It's like a toll gate you have to comply with before you can move on to the next toll gate of build, right? It's almost like in the design stage, do you meet all these criteria, which also fulfills like compliance questions. And you could bring in your privacy partner, your security partners, bring all these major stakeholders together to ensure that there's a checklist, a toll gate checklist that a product manager has to be responsible for, but build in the data governance aspects of it. And I've seen this actually when I was at S&P, and I'm seeing this also at other banks as well, where you build it in as a part of the SDLC lifecycle. No one can argue with that. Technology people love it, so they'll be all supportive of it. But if you also bring in your other stakeholders and ensure that data has a key role, as well as privacy, security. If you bring in those stakeholders, no one will argue. Everyone will be supportive of it and play nicely. And you could make your compliance team the executive sponsor.
I love that. Thank you so much. That was really, really helpful. Yeah.
I love when you said compliance is everybody's business.
Oh, it is. And no one's gonna say no. No, everyone's
of course. Yeah.
Even though it is additional loop, right? That, I mean, everyone complains about them, but it is important. And if you make it, again, embedding it into existing processes like SDLC, making it a toll gate, building it part of your culture across all cross-functional teams, make your AI engineers also respond to the checklist. And it doesn't have to be complicated, right? It's just a short questionnaire that you attest to, that you agree to these statements, you're affirming it, and you can make projects and products certify against these principles. And these can be existing security, privacy, AI build principles already, but you could holistically bring it together with the right data use as well.
Super. Thank you so much. And we have a final question. Thanks, Sushant. Have a good evening. Niva, did you want to go off mute and ask your question?
Yeah, I think it's pretty much what she covered. I think I was just trying to summarize my thought. Okay, AI is all about data, agentic AI or AI, right? Whatever AI you can think of. It's all about data, but if you use AI on the back end as what are the primary safeguard you should implement to have a privacy, right?
Oh, great question. And I love this because this is exactly what I did back when I worked at a startup, was around privacy, data security. And this is, again, it goes back to, I think it was Evan Benjamin's question around classifying data. So depending on type of data it can have different levels of privacy. Organizations might call it like have a privacy classification level that's something like internal, confidential, private. So they might have those type of confidential levels. But another classification technique is also being able to identify, what's personal information, and that's actually what you need to know in order to exclude from models. So personal information like your name, email address, phone numbers, identifiable information, you automatically want to classify it, tag it, so that you can exclude it. Colorado has privacy laws against, protecting against children, using children's data in AI models. So you also want to be able to check for age, if they're minor, so be able to identify if they are a minor and exclude them. So this is, again, a very, very important topic. Again, why chief privacy officers want to own AI, because it all started predominantly with privacy, data privacy, like GDPR, and in the United States with California, and I would say Colorado, Washington State, many states, I'm not a privacy expert, but many states have laws in place, state laws, which dictate how to use and also protect people's rights in their data going into these AI models and algorithms. And I would say it's a responsibility of us as citizens to know what our rights are, to say, please don't use my data, redact my data, it's my right. it's also a competitive advantage for organizations to have a clear program in place to know to demonstrate that they have good data governance and good data management in order to comply with these unfortunately state regulations, since we don't have a US federal privacy law. But again, to our European colleagues and friends, they can certainly take advantage of GDPR. But again, it is a little bit daunting to know how AI is already using our personal information to personalize and customize a lot of information, how it's already being used in national security. And it already is very widespread, and we probably give away lots of our rights already by downloading apps, using all these like communication apps. You're giving away you're signing away your rights already. But this is again important to teach people. Not everyone is as educated as this group is about data and is asking the right questions. So being able to educate our family and friends, and for myself, my son and children today that are more susceptible about just freely giving away all their rights just so that they can use an app that makes you shift your face, or I don't know, all these TikToks and ByteDance. I really am totally against how much data they're scraping off the web. And I know I'm pretty public as well, but it's yeah, it's and we haven't even talked about deep fakes. It's another whole other hallucination about how people are using for negative, right? Again, all these things for negative. We should have a whole other webinar about how we can all collaborate and brainstorm about how we can use AI for good, data for good.
We are going to make note of that, Peggy, and we are already signing you up for it.
Let's have a brainstorming session so collectively we can all figure out what we can be doing.
100%. That's such a great idea. But this was
legislative or
yes,
or work professional. I think there's so many things we can be doing.
This was amazing. Thank you so much. So with that, we know we went significantly over than our time. So thank you so much. And thank you to our amazing audience for asking such great questions. I felt this discussion was so rich and very timely and much needed. So Peggy, we're extremely grateful for you, for coming and, sharing your knowledge with us. And with that, we'll just close off the evening. Thank you once again. And please stay tuned for the next set of speakers. We are going to be making a post. We'll try towards end of August, or maybe it's going to be early September. So we'll try towards the end of the weekend to let you know who are our next speakers in September. So with that, have a wonderful evening, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you.